A greeting is one of the most ordinary gestures in life, repeated countless times without much thought. We say hello, exchange a handshake, perhaps share a brief hug, and then move on. But beneath this fleeting act lies a depth we rarely stop to consider. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung once compared the meeting of two personalities to the contact of chemical substances, reminding us that if there is any reaction, both are transformed. That is precisely what happens in the first seconds of a greeting. What appears to be a routine exchange often carries with it an invisible spark that can alter the emotional landscape between two people in ways words cannot fully capture. When a man feels attracted to a woman, this simple gesture ceases to be neutral. His body reacts before his conscious mind has time to intervene. A shift in posture, a glance that lingers, a smile that breaks without effort, these are signs that his unconscious has taken the stage. Even if he tries to mask it, even if he speaks casually, the truth seeps through in his greeting more clearly than he may realize, as Jung warned, until the unconscious becomes conscious. It directs life in ways we call fate. Nowhere is this more visible than in those unguarded instants when the body speaks first. What makes the greeting so powerful is precisely its lack of preparation. In those few seconds, there are no strategies, no carefully rehearsed lines, no time to construct a facade. The unconscious reveals itself openly. If he approaches differently, if his eyes soften, if his hand lingers a moment too long, it is because something inside him has already crossed the boundary from indifference into interest. A greeting, then, is not only a social custom, it is an emotional confession dressed as courtesy. It is the beginning of a story told without words, a small but meaningful revelation of what he feels. To notice this, however, requires a sensitivity most people overlook. Attraction often hides in subtleties, in the way his voice shifts when he sees you, in the straightening of his shoulders as you approach, in the involuntary warmth of his expression. These are not grand declarations, but quiet signals that, if observed carefully, unveil deep truths. And once you learn to read them, you discover that no greeting is ever just a greeting. Each one carries within it the possibility of transformation, the potential for connection, the raw imprint of emotion that the conscious mind has yet to admit. This understanding transforms not only how we perceive others, but also how we perceive ourselves in relation to them. If you too feel something stirring, that moment of contact becomes a shared ritual. You have the opportunity to leave an impression that lingers beyond the goodbye. An impression formed not by manipulation, but by authenticity. For gestures left unexpressed often weigh heavily over time, while those lived truthfully create space for genuine connection. As Jung reminded us, what is not expressed does not die. It remains buried, only to surface later in more distorted forms. To greet sincerely, then, is to honor the truth of one's inner life. Consider the first sign, the way he looks at your hair. At first glance, this might appear trivial, even superficial, but it is far more symbolic than it seems. Hair has always been tied to identity, sensuality, and transformation. When a man notices and comments on it, he is often saying more than he intends. It is not common for people to observe such subtle details in those they feel nothing for. The brain filters endlessly, allowing through only what resonates emotionally. When his attention lingers on your hair, when he remarks on a change, when his eyes brighten in recognition, he is signaling that you occupy a unique space in his perception. His unconscious is speaking, "I see you. I notice you. You matter to me in a way others do not." Beyond mere observation, the manner of his looking adds layers of meaning. If a smile accompanies the gaze, if his expression softens, if his eyes trace your features with warmth, it reveals admiration wrapped in restraint. Compliments about your hair often mask compliments about you, offering a safe way to express appreciation without appeering too forward. These gestures, subtle as they are, become a form of mirroring. A quiet attempt to bridge the distance, his attention, repeated and consistent, confirms that he carries the image of you with him beyond the moment. It is not the hair itself that matters. It is the symbol of his desire to connect, to register you, to hold you in memory. Such small signs may pass unnoticed, but for the attentive, they are precious. They show that attraction is rarely born of dramatic declarations. Instead, it begins with the unconscious reaching out through gestures so delicate they can almost be missed. Yet, once recognized, they tell us everything. A man's gaze at your hair during a greeting is not a superficial act, it is a symbolic confession, the body's way of voicing what the heart feels before the lips dare to follow. Another revealing sign of genuine attraction is the spontaneous smile accompanied by the subtle lift of the eyebrows at the moment he sees you. It is one of those gestures so swift and involuntary that it often escapes conscious awareness. Yet, it carries immense weight. Unlike a polite or socially rehearsed smile, which only curves the lips, this one involves the entire face. The muscles around the eyes contract, light radiates from his expression, and the eyebrows rise in a fleeting arch of surprise and delight. This is not calculated behavior. It is the limbic system, the emotional core of the brain, reacting before reason has any chance to intervene. In that instant, he is not merely greeting you. He is revealing the joy your presence awakens in him. This micro-expression, though it lasts barely longer than the blink of an eye, communicates far more than words could. It is the body's way of saying, "I'm glad you are here. You matter to me." Jung believed that emotions suppressed in the unconscious eventually find their way out, sometimes in distorted or harmful forms. But here, they emerge pure and unguarded. The smile and raised brows bypass the filters of strategy and self-consciousness. They are raw signals of attraction and affection, a glimpse of truth that has not yet been shaped into language. When this reaction appears every time he sees you, its consistency confirms that the emotion runs deep. His body has already formed the association. Your presence equals joy, equals desire, equals a shift in his emotional state. What makes this expression even more powerful is how it transforms the entire energy of the greeting. A mechanical hello becomes something charged, luminous, personal, if he leans forward slightly, if his gaze lingers a moment longer than custom requires, if his body seems to open toward you rather than hold back. Then you are witnessing not just friendliness, but an unconscious confession. And when that smile is accompanied by nervousness, an awkward laugh, a slip in his words, a visible effort to steady himself, it is yet another layer of proof. Strong emotions often destabilize the ordinary patterns of behavior, far from being a flaw. This unsteadiness is the body's way of revealing the depth of feeling that words cannot yet carry. The true measure of such a greeting is not only in the smile itself, but in what follows. Does he linger? Searching for reasons to keep you near, does he ask unnecessary questions just to prolong the exchange? Does he seem reluctant to let the moment close too quickly, if so? Then his unconscious has already taken the lead, guiding him toward connection even if he does not dare name it. The beauty of this is that it is not rehearsed. It cannot be faked with any authenticity. Politeness may mimic courtesy, but it cannot replicate the radiance of a genuine smile that begins in the eyes and spreads unbidden across the face. This reaction grows even more telling in unprepared contexts. If he encounters you unexpectedly, without time to compose himself, and that same spontaneous smile lights up his face, then the truth is undeniable. In such moments, the body has no chance to hide. His features, his posture, his entire being betray the inner joy that rises simply from your presence. That is when the greeting reveals itself as an emotional spark, an involuntary confession that he likes you, admires you, feels something deeper than he may ever say aloud. It is, in Jungian terms, the unconscious surfacing through the smallest of symbols that carry more honesty than grand speeches ever could. And yet, attraction often goes further than looks and smiles. The body seeks contact, however subtle. A hand resting a fraction too long on your shoulder, a hug that lingers past courtesy, fingers brushing yours in a way that feels unintentional but somehow meaningful. These are not random gestures. They are the oldest language of desire, the most direct form of unspoken communication. Physical contact, even the lightest touch, imprints itself with a weight words cannot match. It says, "I want to be close to you. I need to bridge this distance." And in many cases, the man himself may not fully understand why he does it. His unconscious, driven by longing, is reaching out through touch. This difference becomes clearer when compared to ordinary greetings. Social contact is quick, neutral, restrained. But when attraction is present, something shifts. His hug carries warmth. His hand presses with more presence. His fingers hesitate before letting go. These small delays and lingering gestures are filled with meaning. They are the body's attempt to prolong closeness, to create a memory that lasts beyond the instant. Jung observed that loneliness does not arise from being alone, but from failing to express what matters most in these subtle touches. The man's body tries to express precisely what he cannot yet articulate. His hands speak the words his lips hold back. The power of this gesture lies also in its uniqueness. Does he greet others in the same way, or is his touch reserved only for you? If he behaves differently in your presence, warmer, more tactile, more attentive, then it is a sign of something singular. His unconscious does not allow him to extend the same level of closeness to everyone. With you, however, it seeks connection, it seeks recognition, it seeks intimacy in the smallest possible way, hoping the message will be felt, even if it is never spoken. That is the truth of physical contact. When attraction underlies it, it is not casual, it is symbolic. It carries the weight of desire and tenderness bound together. When you learn to watch for these signs, the gaze at your hair, the spontaneous smile with raised eyebrows, the subtle touch, you begin to understand the language of the body in a new way. It becomes clear that in greetings, the unconscious speaks first. Before conversation begins, before reason has a chance to shape behavior, the body already tells its story. It is an honest story, unfiltered and pure. The most reliable source of truth in a world where words often disguise more than they reveal. What makes these signals so fascinating is how they emerge most clearly in moments of spontaneity. When life unfolds outside of routine, an unexpected meeting in the grocery store, crossing paths on the street, running into each other at a cafe. The absence of preparation strips away much of the mask people wear. In these situations, a man who is attracted to a woman often reveals himself with even more intensity. His smile widens naturally. His body leans in before his mind realizes it. His eyes brighten with surprise and warmth. The lack of forethought forces honesty. There's no time to hide behind politeness or strategy. What comes forth is raw, instinctive, undeniable. Context magnifies meaning. A casual workplace hello may be restrained, but if in another setting, away from the formalities of duty, his greeting transforms. It says a great deal. The unconscious thrives on these spontaneous revelations. He may comment on your appearance, touch your arm as if by accident, or allow his voice to soften in ways he never does around others. These are not rehearsed tactics. They are cracks in the wall of self-control through which his deeper feelings slip out. Jung often noted that repressed emotions do not vanish, they return, finding expression in unexpected forms, in greetings. These unexpressed feelings take the shape of gestures too honest to ignore. For those attuned to this subtle language, a greeting becomes a diagnostic tool of the heart. In the span of seconds, before any words have been exchanged, the entire tone of the relationship can be glimpsed. Eye contact that lingers too long, posture that subtly shifts to open, the almost imperceptible hesitation before letting go of a hand, all of these details speak louder than declarations. They show us whether attraction is present, whether desire is stirring, whether the body is already reaching out while the conscious mind holds back. The truth reveals itself in silence long before it emerges in conversation. The difference between a greeting born of routine and one born of emotion could not be clearer once you know what to observe. Routine greetings are mechanical, a quick smile, minimal eye contact, a safe and neutral distance. They serve the social function without opening emotional doors. But when attraction shapes the greeting, everything changes. There is an eagerness to close the distance, to sustain the gaze, to prolong the moment. The warmth is palpable, the energy alive. These are not deliberate decisions, they are automatic reactions, rooted deep within the unconscious, and because they are automatic, they are among the most reliable signs we have. Repetition amplifies the message. If this transformation happens once, it may be chance. But if it happens every time, if every greeting is charged with the same warmth, the same attention, the same subtle touch, then the truth is persistent. His unconscious is speaking with consistency. Each encounter carries the same undercurrent of attraction, confirming that this is not a fleeting reaction, but an ongoing pattern. The greeting becomes a ritual of disclosure, a repeated confession disguised as civility. It is worth noting that such signs are often unique to one person. A man may greet others with politeness, but with the woman he is drawn to, the rules shift. He may straighten his posture only when she enters the room, offer warmth in his tone only when speaking to her, extend his hand or hug with more presence than with anyone else. This distinction is vital. It demonstrates that what is unfolding is not habit, but emotion. His body knows the difference, and it shows. Attraction often unsettles. 2. The very strength of what he feels may cause clumsiness or nervous laughter. He may stumble over words, glance away too quickly, or fidget in small ways. While these behaviors might seem like flaws, they are in fact powerful evidence of authenticity. They tell us that his emotions are not under full control, that the intensity of his attraction destabilizes his usual composure. This unsteadiness is not weakness, it is proof of sincerity. It is the human heart struggling to manage the weight of feelings it has not yet put into words. The greeting, then, becomes more than a custom. It becomes a space where truth escapes through cracks in the facade, a slight hesitation, a too bright smile, a lingering touch. These are the ways the unconscious proclaims what the lips remain silent about. They are not always easy to notice, but once seen, they cannot be unseen, and they carry a beauty of their own, for they reveal that connection is already forming in the invisible realm, long before it is ever admitted aloud. This understanding reshapes how we look at even the smallest gestures. A handshake, a hug, a smile at first sight. These may seem mundane, but they are alive with hidden meaning. They are windows into the soul, moments where the unconscious becomes visible, where unexpressed emotions begin to take form. In those instants, the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. What was once dismissed as habit is revealed as the spark of something far deeper, a silent story waiting to unfold. The greeting is never just about the words spoken, it is about presence. Before conversation begins, before any exchange of ideas, the body has already declared its truth. The way his eyes find yours, the speed with which his smile appears, the warmth or hesitation in his touch, these are all part of a silent script that plays out without rehearsal. And this script is perhaps the most authentic story he will ever tell, because it comes from a place deeper than thought. Jung often emphasized that what is not expressed through words will find another outlet. In greetings, the body becomes the voice of the unconscious, speaking in gestures that cannot be faked with consistency. One of the most telling signs lies in eye contact. A man who greets with routine politeness will glance quickly, acknowledge your presence, and then shift away. But when there is attraction, The gaze lingers. It does not dart, but holds, sometimes softening, sometimes sharpening with intensity. In that pause, even if brief, there's a flood of communication, admiration, curiosity, longing. Eyes that stay with you are eyes that are engaged, that do not wish to let go of the moment too soon. And when that gaze is paired with a spontaneous smile or a visible change in his expression, it is the unconscious confessing what the conscious has not yet dared to articulate. Posture speaks just as clearly. Attraction draws the body forward, shoulders straighten, chest expands, feet orient unconsciously in your direction. These shifts may appear minor, but they are profound indicators. The body leans toward what it desires, toward what it finds meaningful. In greetings, that lean becomes a magnetic gesture, his way of aligning himself with you without thinking about it. He may not even realize he has shifted, but you will sense it in the energy that fills the space between you. This forward movement is not strategy, it is instinct. And instinct, when it reveals itself so openly, is among the most honest expressions of desire. Tone of voice, too, carries hidden signals. When attraction is present, the voice often softens, drops in pitch, or takes on warmth that is absent in ordinary conversation. It is as though the unconscious infuses the sound with emotional resonance, attempting to reach you not only with words, but with the vibration of presence itself. You may notice that his greeting carries more melody, more brightness, more life than when he speaks to others. Even if he says something as simple as hello, the difference is tangible. It is the unspoken emotion-shaping sound, wrapping ordinary words in extraordinary meaning. Physical contact, as we have seen, is another arena where truth slips through. The distinction lies in intention. Social touches are light, neutral, brief. But when a man greets with attraction, his contact tends to linger, to press with warmth, to create memory. A hug lasts longer, a handshake becomes firmer, a pat on the back feels more deliberate. These gestures may seem casual, but they are layered with unconscious desire for closeness. The body is asking, in its own silent language, for permission to remain near. And when such gestures repeat consistently, they reveal an enduring attraction that has woven itself into his patterns of behavior. What makes all of this so powerful is that it often happens beneath the level of awareness. He may not realize that his voice shifts, that his posture changes, that his gaze betrays longing. Yet you notice, and in noticing, you unlock the truth of what is unfolding. This is the gift of attention, of seeing beyond words into the realm of what is felt but not said. Jung believed that symbols were the language of the unconscious, and in this light, every gesture of a greeting becomes a symbol. A smile becomes more than a smile. It becomes a symbol of joy. A lingering gaze becomes a symbol of interest. A subtle touch becomes a symbol of longing. To read these symbols is to read the heart before it speaks. It is also important to recognize how consistency strengthens the message. A single greeting may mislead, but repeated patterns form a story. If each time he greets you, his body reveals the same warmth, the same desire to linger, the same unconscious gestures of attraction, then you are witnessing a truth that endures. His unconscious has created a ritual, a way of expressing emotions that his conscious self may still be struggling to voice, and because the unconscious repeats itself with fidelity. These patterns are among the most reliable indicators of what is real. Attraction, of course, carries vulnerability with it. Sometimes it shows itself in awkwardness. He may stumble with his words, laugh without clear reason, or shift nervously, far from undermining his feelings. These small, clumsy moments reinforce them. They demonstrate that his emotions are strong enough to disrupt his usual control. The unconscious pushes forward, and the conscious mind scrambles to catch up. In this dance of grace and unease, the truth of attraction becomes even clearer. It is not performance, it is real. What emerges then is a profound realization the simplest gestures hold the deepest truths. A greeting, often dismissed as routine, is in fact a concentrated moment of revelation. The unconscious uses it to communicate attraction, desire, tenderness, and joy. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, the fleeting into the memorable. And if you learn to pay attention, you can see within those seconds the beginning of a story not yet spoken aloud. When we step back and consider all these signs together, it becomes clear that a greeting is far more than a polite exchange. It is an emotional landscape condensed into a moment, a ritual where the unconscious comes forward without disguise. Jung often spoke of the way unexpressed feelings find their own pathways. And in greetings, those pathways are gestures, tones, glances, and touches. They are the body's way of living what the heart has not yet admitted. What looks like simplicity is in fact a symbolic act, a concentrated moment where emotion breaks the surface and declares itself. The meaning of these gestures deepens when we consider their symbolic nature. Hair, for example, has always been tied to identity and transformation. When a man notices your hair in a greeting, especially with attentiveness or compliment, he is revealing more than casual observation. He is acknowledging you as an individual who stands apart from others in his perception. His gaze on such a detail is an act of emotional attention, a way of saying, I see you in a way I do not see everyone else. This is not something done casually or universally. It is reserved for those who stir something within him. The smile paired with lifted eyebrows carries another symbolic weight. It is an expression of openness, fascination, and delight in evolutionary terms. This gesture signals welcome, curiosity, and interest. In personal terms, it is a silent confession of attraction. And because it emerges before conscious control, it carries honesty that words may lack. The unconscious does not rehearse, does not calculate, does not perform. It simply reveals. To witness such a smile is to glimpse joy made visible, desire written on the face before it can be disguised. Touch, too, holds symbolic power. It is the oldest form of communication, predating words, carrying meanings too deep for language alone. In greetings, the difference between casual and meaningful contact lies in presence, a hug that lingers, a handshake that presses warmly, a hand on the shoulder that remains a fraction longer than necessary. These are not random. They are unconscious efforts to preserve closeness, to create memory, to leave behind a trace of connection that lasts beyond the moment. In these small gestures, the unconscious expresses what the conscious holds back: the desire to be near, to close distance, to affirm emotion through skin and presence. What transforms these observations from curiosity into truth is consistency. When a man behaves this way only once, it may be coincidence, but when his greetings repeatedly carry these signals, when his eyes brighten every time, when his touch always lingers, when his posture unfailingly opens toward you, it becomes clear that the unconscious is weaving a pattern. And in human psychology, repeated patterns reveal enduring truths. The unconscious is consistent even when the conscious is uncertain. That is why learning to observe greetings provides a window into emotions not yet spoken, but deeply felt. Context reveals even more. In routine environments, social masks are strong, but in unexpected settings, when preparation is impossible, the unconscious rises with clarity. A man who lights up at the sudden sight of you, who unconsciously shifts closer, who greets with warmth more intense than circumstance demands, is revealing what lies within him without disguise. Spontaneity strips away the mask of control. In those unguarded instants, his true feelings are most visible. That is why noticing greetings in varied contexts can tell you more than hours of conversation. In conversation, the mind can hide. In greetings, the body rarely does. For you, this awareness is not about manipulation, but about presence. To recognize these signals is to understand what is being communicated without words. And if you feel the same attraction, you too can shape the greeting into something meaningful. by holding his gaze, by allowing your smile to linger, by leaning in with warmth. You transform the moment into a mutual confession, subtle but powerful. A greeting then becomes not only a revelation of his unconscious, but also an expression of yours. In those seconds, two inner worlds meet without need for speech, affirming each other in silence. The value of understanding this goes beyond romance. It is a reminder of how often the unconscious shapes our daily lives. We think we are in control of what we express, but our bodies are constantly telling truths our minds resist. Jung believed that the unlived life weighs heavily on the psyche, and unexpressed feelings inevitably seek expression. Greetings are one of the most common doorways for this to happen. They show us that truth always finds a way out, that even in the smallest gestures, we are communicating who we are and what we feel. So the next time someone greets you, especially someone whose presence stirs something within, pay attention. Look at the eyes, the smile, the posture, the voice, the touch. Ask yourself whether this is routine or revelation. Listen not only with your ears, but with your intuition, your sensitivity to what lies beneath. Because within those seconds may lie the beginning of a story, a confession made without words, a truth waiting to be recognized. And if you see it, if you feel it, you will know that no greeting is ever just a greeting once you understand what is truly being said. And perhaps that is the deeper lesson. Life's truths often reveal themselves not in grand declarations, but in subtle, ordinary moments. The unconscious does not shout, it whispers. But those whispers carry the weight of authenticity. A greeting, so easily overlooked, becomes a ritual of meaning. It shows us that connection is not born in speeches or strategies, but in the raw, unfiltered gestures of presence. It reminds us that transformation begins the moment two people meet, that the body tells stories the mind cannot yet name, that desire and tenderness live not in words, but in the silent language of the soul. If this reflection has offered you something valuable, remember to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, subscribe for more thoughtful content, and comment below with your own experiences of these subtle moments. Your voice adds to the conversation, and together we can keep uncovering the hidden truths of everyday life.